Once upon a time, before Anthony Edwards became the rising star of the NBA, he was just a young kid from Atlanta with a love for basketball that bordered on obsession. Growing up in a tight-knit family, Anthony's life was filled with warmth and support, though he faced his share of challenges. His mother, who worked tirelessly to provide for her family, was his biggest inspiration. She often reminded him that resilience and kindness would take him farther than any skill alone. As a kid, Anthony wasn't just a promising athlete, he was also a natural leader. In school, he helped organize games at recess, making sure everyone got a chance to play. But what most people didn't know was that he also had a soft spot for animals. Stray dogs would often wander onto the courts where he practiced, and Anthony couldn't stand to see them hungry or alone. Over time, he became known in the neighborhood as the kid who cares for strays. One summer, a dog he named Rusty, a big, scruffy mutt with a reddish-brown coat, began showing up regularly. Rusty had a limp and a scar on his ear, looking as though he'd been through his own share of battles. But Rusty was loyal, and whenever Anthony practiced, the dog would sit by the court, watching as if he were Anthony's first fan. Despite his family's modest means, Anthony would save part of his allowance to buy Rusty dog food. The bond between the two was undeniable. Rusty was more than just a stray, he was Anthony's friend. One day, during a neighborhood tournament, Anthony noticed a group of older kids bullying one of the younger players. This kid was new to the community and didn't have much confidence on the court. Anthony, known for his gentle yet firm nature, stepped in, telling the bullies to back off. They laughed, challenging him to a one-on-one match to decide who should stay on the court. Anthony, calm but determined, accepted. The game was intense. The older kids were taller, rougher, and far more intimidating, but Anthony's speed and finesse were unmatched. Rusty, watching from the sidelines, barked at every point Anthony scored. As the game came to a close, Anthony hit a fadeaway jump shot to win. The bullies grumbled but left the court, defeated. The younger kid looked at Anthony with wide-eyed admiration, and from that day on, he had a newfound confidence. But Anthony's toughest challenge came that same year. During a big citywide tournament, college scouts filled the bleachers, and this was his chance to shine. However, just hours before the game, Rusty went missing. Distracted, Anthony searched the neighborhood in a panic, calling for his friend. But Rusty was nowhere to be found. He could barely focus as he walked onto the court, the thought of his missing friend weighing heavily on him. Despite his distraction, Anthony played with heart. By halftime, he had racked up enough points to keep his team in the lead, though he missed Rusty's loyal presence by the court. Suddenly, toward the end of the third quarter, a commotion broke out near the bleachers. To his disbelief, Rusty limped onto the court, barking with excitement. His teammates, fans, and even the opposing team couldn't help but cheer for the scrappy dog who had somehow found his way back. Anthony's face lit up. With Rusty watching once more, he played the game of his life, scoring a record number of points and securing a victory. After the game, several scouts approached him, each offering promises of scholarships and bright futures. But to Anthony, none of it felt as rewarding as seeing Rusty's proud face looking up at him. Years later, as Anthony entered the NBA and his career skyrocketed, he often thought of that summer. He faced bullies, doubts, and moments of loneliness, but he'd learned that true strength lay in kindness and resilience. Rusty, his scruffy, loyal friend, had taught him more about loyalty and companionship than any coach ever could. Even as he traveled to different cities for games, Anthony often returned to Atlanta to visit the courts where it all began, hoping to inspire the next generation of kids, just like that younger kid he'd once stood up for. And each time he did, he'd bring along a new friend, often another rescue dog, hoping to pay forward the love and loyalty he'd found on the courts with Rusty.